The emergency beacon screamed through Kira Moss's neural implant at 3 in the morning. She jolted awake in her quarters aboard the diplomatic station, heart hammering, as the message decoded itself directly into her consciousness. Galactic Council, immediate summons. Classification, existential threat. She'd been Earth's ambassador to the Council for 6 years, and never once had she received a midnight alert with that classification. Wars earned that tag. Plague outbreaks, stellar extinction events. Kira dressed in under 2 minutes, her hands steady despite the dread pooling in her stomach. Whatever had happened, it involved humans. It always did. The council chamber was already full when she arrived. 17 alien species packed the circular arena, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony that her translator barely managed to parse. At the center stood Chancellor Vorim, a towering crystalline being whose species had founded the council 8,000 years before humans even discovered fire. Ambassador Moss, Vorim's voice resonated like glass chimes in a hurricane. Explained the child. Kira's blood went cold. I don't understand the question, Chancellor. A hologram flickered to life above the chamber floor. The image showed a small human girl, perhaps 6 years old with dark skin and bright eyes. She was laughing, running through what looked like a field of razor-edged volcanic rock. Behind her, geysers of superheated steam erupted from fissures in the ground. The atmospheric readings scrolling beside the image made Kira's breath catch. Surface temperature, 170 degrees. Atmospheric toxicity, lethal to 98% of known species. Seismic activity, constant. This footage was captured on Ashfall Prime, Vorim continued. A planet your species listed as a mining survey location. Our intelligence suggests otherwise. How long have humans been colonizing Deathworlds, Ambassador? And how many children have you brought to these forbidden zones? The question landed like a physical blow. Kira had known about the Deathworld colonies, of course. Every human in the diplomatic corps knew. But children? That was supposed to be impossible. The colonies were staffed by volunteers, specialists who understood the risks. Bringing kids to a Class Omega Deathworld violated every safety protocol humanity had established. I need time to investigate this matter, Kira said, keeping her voice level. You have 48 hours, Vorim replied. After that, we will send peacekeepers to evacuate any human settlements on Deathworlds and take custody of any children for their own protection. The Council cannot allow humanity to endanger the most vulnerable among you, regardless of your species' unusual resilience. Kira wanted to argue, to buy more time, but she recognized the tone in Vorim's voice. This wasn't a negotiation. She bowed her head in acknowledgement and left the chamber at a pace just short of running. 6 hours later, Kira's shuttle broke through the ash clouds surrounding Ashfall Prime. The planet lived up to its name. Massive volcanoes dominated every continent, belching columns of flame and smoke into an atmosphere that looked like the inside of a furnace. Lightning crackled between the ash clouds, and the shuttle's sensors screamed warnings about atmospheric pressure, temperature extremes, and toxic gas concentrations that would liquefy most organic tissue. Landing zone ahead, her pilot announced. Unlike Kira, he was grinning. Humans who volunteered for Deathworld duty were a special breed. The colony sprawled across a plateau between two active calderas. Prefabricated structures made from heat-resistant alloys formed a rough circle around a central dome. But what caught Kira's attention were the people outside, working in the hellish environment with nothing more than lightweight environmental suits. She could see them laughing, talking, moving with the easy confidence of people in their own backyard. Jacob Stone met her at the landing pad. He was tall, weathered, with the kind of build that came from years of hard physical labor. His handshake was firm, his smile genuine. Ambassador Moss, welcome to paradise. He gestured at the volcanic landscape with obvious pride. Paradise? Kira couldn't keep the disbelief from her voice. You get used to it. Come on, I'll show you around. And I'll introduce you to Maya. The girl from the hologram was in the central dome, sitting at a table and drawing with colored pencils. She looked up when Kira entered, and her face split into a huge smile. Are you from Earth? Maya asked, bouncing in her seat. Daddy says Earth has oceans you can actually swim in without boiling. Is that true? Kira found herself smiling despite everything. It's true. Maya, can I ask you some questions? For the next hour, Kira talked with Maya and watched her interact with the other colonists. The child was bright, curious, and completely at ease in an environment that should have been a death sentence. When Maya casually mentioned going outside to play near the lava flows, Kira had to consciously keep her expression neutral. She doesn't know any different, Jacob said quietly, watching Maya chase another child through the dome. She was born here. To her, this is normal. Born here? Kira's voice came out sharper than intended. Jacob, you can't raise children on a death world. The radiation alone. We monitor everything, Jacob interrupted. Maya's healthier than 90% of kids her age on Earth. Stronger, faster reflexes, enhanced immune system. The environment here doesn't hurt her. It makes her thrive. Before Kira could respond, an alert sounded through the dome. Jacob's expression changed instantly. We need to move. Now. He grabbed Maya's hand and started toward a reinforced shelter. Pressure wave incoming. Big one. The ground began to shake. Through the dome's transparent panels, Kira saw one of the nearby volcanoes erupt with terrifying force. A wall of superheated gas and debris roared toward the colony at hundreds of miles per hour. We're not gonna make it, someone shouted. Then Maya pulled free from Jacob's grip and ran toward the dome's exit. Maya, no! Jacob lunged after her, but the child was impossibly fast. Kira watched in horror as Maya triggered the airlock and stepped outside. The 6-year-old stood on the plateau, facing the oncoming pyroclastic flow with her arms raised. Then the ground beneath Maya's feet began to glow. Cracks of brilliant orange light spread outward from where she stood, forming an intricate pattern that looked almost like a circuit board made of molten rock. The pyroclastic flow hit an invisible barrier 50 meters from the dome and split around it, diverted by forces Kira couldn't begin to understand. The deadly cloud roared past on either side, destroying everything in its path, but the colony remained untouched. When the danger passed, Maya walked calmly back inside. She looked tired, but pleased with herself. Got it on the first try this time, she announced proudly. Jacob was shaking. Maya, sweetheart, you can't just... We've talked about this. I know. Wait for the adults. Maya yawned. But you were all being slow, and the mountain was really angry. I had to help. Kira stared at the child, her mind reeling. What just happened? We don't entirely understand it ourselves, a new voice said from behind her. Kira turned to find a woman in her 50s, with silver-streaked hair and eyes that held depths of knowledge and secrets. She carried herself with absolute authority, and every colonist in the dome had turned to look at her with something approaching reverence. Ambassador Moss, I presume? I'm Dr. Chiriad, Leah Cross. Welcome to my domain. The woman's smile was warm, but carried an edge of challenge. I believe it's time you learned the truth about what we're really doing out here. Leia led Kira to a private quarters section of the dome. Once inside, she activated a privacy field and pulled up a star map dotted with dozens of markers. Ashfall Prime is one of 43 Deathworld colonies humanity has established in the past 20 years, Leah began. Each one is on a planet the Council has classified as uninhabitable. Too hot, too cold, too toxic, too unstable. Worlds where, according to conventional wisdom, nothing should be able to survive, let alone thrive. Why? Kira asked. What's the point of colonizing planets that want to kill you? Because they don't want to kill us. Not really? Leah's eyes gleamed with passion. Every other species in the galaxy evolved on stable, moderate worlds. They think of planets as static things, environments to be controlled and tamed. But Earth taught us different. Earth was a death world by their standards. Earthquakes, hurricanes, ice ages, meteor strikes. We evolved in chaos, Ambassador. We learned to adapt, to survive, to find opportunity in disaster. She pulled up medical scans, genetic analyses, developmental reports. The children born on these worlds are extraordinary. Enhanced reflexes, improved healing, resistance to environmental extremes that would kill their parents. And something else. Something we're only beginning to understand. What Maya did out there, Kira said slowly. controlling the volcanic system. She's not controlling it. She's communicating with it. Leah's voice dropped to an awed whisper. These children are forming connections with their planets, Ambassador. Symbiotic relationships on a scale we've never seen. They can sense seismic activity, predict eruptions, even influence geothermal patterns through mechanisms we don't fully comprehend. It's not telepathy or magic, it's evolution. Happening in real time, humanity adapting to the most extreme environments in the galaxy. Kira sat down heavily. The Council will never accept this. They'll see it as a threat. Humans who can survive anywhere, who can't be killed by environmental hazards. Humans who are no longer alone, Leah corrected gently. Do you know what the real discovery is, Ambassador? It's not that we can survive Deathworlds. It's that we can make them livable for others. Maya didn't just save our colony today. She stabilized an entire volcanic system. In 10 years, 20 at most, this planet could support conventional agriculture, atmosphere scrubbers, temperature regulation, seismic dampening, all powered by children like Maya, who understand their worlds on a fundamental level. You're talking about terraforming from the inside out. I'm talking about humanity finding its purpose in the galaxy. Leah's voice rang with conviction. We're not the strongest species, not the smartest, not the most advanced, but we can go where no one else can. We can take the dead worlds, the forgotten corners of space, and bring them to life. And we won't be doing it alone. We'll be doing it together. Humans and Deathworlders, parents and children, proving that survival has no limits when you refuse to give up. Before Kira could respond, alarms shrieked through the colony. Jacob's voice crackled over the comm system. All personnel to stations. We have incoming ships. Lots of them. Kira and Leah rushed to the command center. The display showed 37 vessels dropping out of faster-than-light travel in orbit around Ashfall Prime. Kira recognized the configurations immediately. Galactic Council peacekeepers. They're 3 hours early, Kira breathed. A communication request flashed on screen. Kira accepted it, and Chancellor Vorum's crystalline face appeared. Ambassador Moss, we have reviewed additional intelligence regarding human Deathworld activities. The scope of your species' unauthorized colonization represents a threat to galactic stability. We are implementing immediate evacuation protocols. All human colonists will be removed from Deathworld environments within 48 hours. Any children will be placed in protective custody pending full medical and psychological evaluation. Chancellor, you don't understand what's happening here. We understand perfectly. Humanity is creating a warrior class, adapted to survive in conditions that would exterminate any other species. You are breeding weapons, Ambassador. Living weapons that could threaten the peace we have maintained for millennia. The connection cut off. Within minutes, dropships began descending through Ashfall Prime's violent atmosphere. Jacob looked at Leah. Orders? The older woman's face was granite. Get the children to the deep shelters. Non-essential personnel evacuate to the secondary sites. Everyone else? Defensive positions. We're not giving up our home without a fight. That's insane, Kira said. You can't fight the Council. They have weapons that could sterilize this entire planet from orbit. And if you use its energy, then they'll have to use them. Leah met Kira's eyes. Because we're not leaving, and we're not letting them take our children. The next hour was chaos. Council peacekeepers in hardened combat suits attempted to land near the colony, but the environmental conditions made it nearly impossible. Suits designed for normal worlds failed in Ashfall Prime's extreme heat and toxic atmosphere. The soldiers who managed to reach the ground moved slowly, cautiously, clearly struggling. The colonists, meanwhile, moved with practiced efficiency. They knew every lava tube, every safe path, every thermal vent and unstable rock formation. It wasn't combat exactly. It was the Deathworld itself fighting back, guided by people who understood its rhythms. But Kira could see how this would end. The Council would escalate. They'd bring in specialized equipment, or they'd simply bombard the colony from orbit. Either way, people would die. She found Maya in one of the deep shelters, surrounded by a dozen other children, ranging from toddlers to teenagers. They weren't crying or panicking. They were calm, focused, their eyes distant, as if listening to something only they could hear. The mountain is scared, Maya said when she noticed Kira. All the ships and the loud noises. It doesn't understand. Maya, I need your help. Can you do something for me? The girl nodded seriously. Can you talk to the other mountains? All of them? I need them to do something really big. An older boy, maybe 15, stepped forward. His name was Derek, Kira remembered. Born on a different death world, brought to Ashfall Prime as part of an exchange program between colonies. We can do it together, Derek said. All of us. What do you need? Kira explained her plan. It was desperate, possibly insane, and might get them all killed. The children listened carefully, then nodded. We can do that, Maya said confidently. But you have to promise the ships won't hurt the mountain afterward. I promise I'll try. The children joined hands, forming a circle. Kira felt the temperature in the shelter drop as energy drained from the air around them. On the surface, every volcano on the continent began to rumble. In orbit, Chancellor Vorum watched his tactical display with growing concern. Seismic activity across Ashfall Prime had increased exponentially in the past 60 seconds. Magma chambers were pressurizing in synchronized patterns that should have been impossible. Thermal blooms appeared at hundreds of locations simultaneously. Sir, we need to pull our forces back. The entire tectonic system is destabilizing. Maintain position, Vorum ordered. This is exactly the kind of threat we feared. The humans are weaponizing the planet itself. Chancellor, please. Kira's voice cut through the command channel. This isn't an attack. It's a demonstration. Watch. On the day side of Ashfall Prime, where the colony sprawled across its volcanic plateau, the ground began to glow. But this wasn't the orange-red of lava. This was different. Brilliant blue-white light erupted from thousands of vents, creating a pattern visible from orbit. It looked like a circuit, like a living network spreading across the entire continent. The volcanic activity didn't stop. It intensified. But instead of random destruction, it became ordered, choreographed. Magma flowed in precise channels, carving new pathways through rock. Geothermal energy concentrated in specific locations, forming stable power sources. The atmosphere began to clear as volcanic gases were vented through newly formed channels that directed them away from the inhabited areas. In 6 minutes, the children of Ashfall Prime did what terraforming machines would take decades to accomplish. They convinced the planet to reshape itself. When the light faded, Maya collapsed. So did the other children. Medical teams rushed to check them, finding exhaustion but no serious injuries. The kids had pushed themselves to their absolute limits. But they'd done it. They'd shown the Council what Deathworld children could really do. Kira stood in the command center, watching the orbital display. The Council ships held position, but she could see their weapon systems powering down. Chancellor Vorum's face appeared on screen again. For the first time since Kira had known him, the ancient being looked uncertain. What are they? He asked quietly. They're children, Kira answered. Human children who are born in impossible places and learn to love them. They're not weapons, Chancellor. They're healers, gardeners, Rick. They can take worlds that should be dead and help them live, and they can teach others to do the same. This power terrifies you, I understand. But imagine what it could mean for the galaxy. How many worlds has the Council written off as uninhabitable? Hundreds? Thousands? What if they didn't have to be? What if humanity could help you reclaim them, make them livable, create new homes for species running out of space? Vorum was silent for a long moment. You're proposing an alliance. I'm proposing we stop seeing each other as threats and start seeing possibilities. Yes, humans can survive on Deathworlds. Yes, our children are developing abilities that might seem frightening, but we're not doing this to build an army. We're doing it because we refuse to accept that any place in the universe is truly hopeless. That's what humanity is, Chancellor. We're the species that sees a volcanic hellscape and thinks I can build a home here, and then we do it. Another pause. Then, I will convene an emergency council session. We will discuss terms. But Ambassador Moss, understand this. We will be watching very carefully. I wouldn't expect anything less. The transmission ended. Around the command center, colonists began to cheer. Leah put a hand on Kira's shoulder. You did it. You bought us time. I bought us a chance, Kira corrected. Now we have to prove we're worth the risk. 3 months later, Kira returned to Ashfall Prime. The planet had changed dramatically. The terraforming process the children had begun was continuing, guided by teams of human specialists working in concert with Maya and the other young Deathworlders. Temperatures in inhabited zones had dropped by 30 degrees. The atmosphere was clearing. In another year, portions of the planet would be habitable for less resilient species. And they were coming. Kira walked through the expanded colony and saw aliens working alongside humans. Scientists, engineers, families looking for new opportunities. The Council had approved a pilot program, supervised Deathworld development, with humanity leading the effort. She found Maya in what had once been a lava field and was now becoming a garden. The girl was teaching a group of alien children how to read the subtle vibrations in the ground, helping them understand the language of stone and fire. Ambassador Kira, Maya waved enthusiastically. Look, Tevik can feel the warm spots now. He's getting really good at it. A small, furry alien child beamed with pride, his species equivalent of a smile. Leah appeared beside Kira, watching the children play. The Council wants to open 5 more Deathworlds for joint development. They're calling it the Cross Initiative. They're naming it after you? They're naming it after all of us. Every human who looked at an impossible world and decided to try anyway. Leah's eyes were distant. For so long, humanity felt alone in the galaxy. We were the newcomers, the primitives, always trying to catch up, but we were never really alone, were we? We just hadn't found our place yet. Kira watched Maya help Tevik navigate across a patch of cooling obsidian, the human child and the alien working together with absolute trust. No, Kira agreed softly. We're not alone anymore, and neither is anyone else. Above them, ships from a dozen different species entered orbit around Ashfall Prime. They came seeking knowledge, opportunity, hope. They came to learn from the Deathworlders, from the humans who had turned hell into a home and then opened their doors to anyone brave enough to walk through. Maya laughed as Tevik successfully predicted a small thermal vent, and the sound echoed across the transforming landscape. It was the sound of the future, Kira thought. The sound of humanity finally finding its purpose among the stars. Not as conquerors, not as victims, but as teachers, showing the galaxy that no world was too harsh, no challenge too great, no dream too impossible, if you had the courage to try and the wisdom to do it together. The Deathworlds were blooming, and humanity was no longer alone.